would, please, our pledges. Would everyone rise, please?
Every time he calls me to ask me to come here, you make me a nervous wreck. An absolute nervous wreck. I've thought about you for the last 3 or 4 days and wondered, what would it really be like in our community if we would all truly follow him and get back to where we need to be? Amen? Amen. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not onto your own understanding. That's the Proverbs. But let's pray. Father, thank you. We want to tell you we love you and we thank you for being our God. We ask that you would just be with these commissioners, the judge, and these citizens as well. Rest upon them today. May your Holy Spirit fill this room and may they feel your direction and in the decisions that they make may be pleasing to you. Continue to enrich our community and help us to be more like you in each and everything that we say and do. We love you. Thank you. We ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the United Texas, one state under God, one indivisible.
Thank you. Okay, item number 5, public comments on agenda items. Have anyone signed up? All right, then we'll move on to the consent agenda. Any comment?
Anybody have anything they want to pull off? If they don't, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second. I have a motion by Commissioner Clement to accept the consent agenda, seconded by Commissioner Hollowell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, next it is 10:02. We'll open up the public hearing on zoning change for 6 acres on County Road 281 and Precinct 2 as requested by Robert Kaiser. Robert here. Anyone else would like to talk to this during the open public hearing? Okay, we'll close the public hearing at 10:03. Okay, deliberate and consider possible approval of the zoning change for the 6 acres on County Road 281 and Precinct 2 as requested by Robert Kaiser.
Documents are in the packet. Yeah, it's just a small packet that the members don't even help with the parents. And now I'm going to pull out some papers, so.
It's not in the P and Z. We still have to rezone that?
It's in the P&Z.
Oh, it's in the P and Z.
Yeah, it's already been approved.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what, I didn't think 281 was in the P and Z. Wow.
Yeah.
Since P and Z approved it, I make a motion we approve it.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Snuggs,
I'll second that.
seconded by Commissioner Clement. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item number 10, presentation by Ray Westbrook. Is Ray here?
Yeah. Funeral information, basically what I'm going to be saying. It also has the, I think I gave him,
Oh.
there we go.
Morning, Judge, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to talk and be on the agenda. The packet that I just handed you, the first page, was just a brief synopsis of why I basically am opposing the ESD in its current format. But if you continue on into it, at the top of the next page, it says Agenda Item Number 10. I listed out a few things that are concerning to me as far as taxes in Cooke County and how this is going to apply. I'm going to go over this just briefly so y'all can see it. You're welcome to flip through it or see it. My supporting documents are in the end of it and actually are posted under supporting documents. This is where I got my information. Things to remember as far as concerning taxes in Cooke County. Right now, the median property tax in Cooke County, Texas is $1,924 per year for a home worth the median value of $111,000. Cooke County collects an average of 1.73% of the property's value assessed fair market as a property tax. As it stands right now, Cooke County is one of the highest median property taxes in the United States. We are ranked 494th out of 3,143 counties in the country. That puts us in the top 15% of the U.S. as far as taxing on property. Average property tax paid by residents is 3.32% of their yearly income. That's $446, which is even higher yet in what we have as far as taxes in our property. Source of the Comptroller's Office shows that special districts tax levy between $8.469 billion in 2018 to $8.87 billion in 2019. That is almost a 5% increase in just special district taxes. It's been found that the Texas code that can also impose a property tax. Businesses currently locally in our community already pay a personal property tax. Residents do not. So if you live in the county and this does pass in the future, whether it's today or another day, they will be able to impose a property tax upon anything that is not fixed in your property. Anything, everything, boats, trailers, golf carts, golf clubs, barbecue pits, anything that is personal property becomes a taxable property if they so choose to impose that, all right? We all agree that we don't really need any more taxes, especially something that's non-controllable. Cooke County has 898 square miles, 875 miles of land, 24 are water, 19 is about the city of Gainesville. Net county area is 856 square miles. Of those, there's 26,809 registered voters in 10 rural fire districts. All of that's in the little information that I got you, so I'm not dreaming all this up. It's there. We're talking right now about starting an ESD of about 60 square miles, which is about 7% of the county as one single ESD. That 7% of the county is half the size of Callisburg Volunteer Fire Department, and they have almost exactly the same number of fire calls. Never mind, Callisburg covers twice the amount of property as Indian Creek does. Indian Creek, I have several different sizes of property for each one of the fire departments listed here. It's just general information and the size that they're on. Indian Creek is requesting multiple stations, each on 5 acres. All of the other departments in Cooke County are on major paved roads, not in a gated community. How large of a property does it need to keep the quality volunteer fire department? As best I could find, each one of them, when I was peeking through the windows, had a brush truck, a tender, an engine, and a command vehicle. I actually got to go into Callisburg because I had a man meet me up there and go over some of their equipment. Fire equipment's expensive, I get it. The question is, does it have to be out of it? Do you get out of it what you pay for? Value proposition. ICVFD has an average of 34 grass and structure fryers per year by their information. Multiply that by 10, which is 340, which is their replacement average for equipment that they're wanting to replace each and every 10 years, some of it less, some of it on 3 years. And you're looking at 340 calls, but the equipment costs $1.73 million. If you take that $1.73 million and put it by 34 fire calls or 340 for 10 years, that's $5,000 a call just for the equipment. That doesn't cover firefighters, firefighter equipment, support, building, structure, fuel, maintenance, any of that. It covers none of that. Or firefighters' equipment, which they have posted as $6,000 per firefighter. Crazy. Put that by 2 stations, that's $10,000 a call if you don't increase the number of calls. Can we afford it? I don't think so. I've lived at my residence in the county for 18 years. I've gotten a request each year for annual donations from ICVFD or LKVFD. In the original district map, I am not in it, and I am not in the realignment of the current redistricting. I get it. I know that at least 2 different calls that have been dispatched to my neighbor. He and I both are in Collinsburg Volunteer Fire Department. Gainesville came to the grass fire that was at his house, and ICVFD responded to a medical call last year. Still not in either one of the districts. The concern I have mainly is, will the CCSO who dispatches 911 to the county be able to dispatch the correct volunteer fire department out of each district to the property that requested? I know that ICVFD has requested expansion farther east into Gainesville and have gotten the approval. Will they be able to respond to this? Donations. Wow. We all live off of donations when it comes to volunteerism. If this goes to a ballot and passes, will property owners that already donate continue to do so? If it goes to a ballot and passes, will property owners start asking questions about why there is another tax on their tax statement? Do we need another tax at this time? As far as getting out and spreading the word and communications, there's been no community discussion concerning this with the citizens that reside in ICVFD that I know of. There's no public forums to discuss it. There's been no mailings to taxpayers about a new tax that they will have to pay. Essentially, there's been no broadcast communication with ICVFD in the other 57 square miles of the district, only within the 3 square miles and a few outside of it as far as communication. The only thing that has been sound is a map, which is unreadable in the weekly news. You had to come down to the courthouse to see it, and there it is right there. Or if you didn't know that, you never knew whether you were in it or not. So kind of on your own tough luck if you didn't know where to go look for it. There's only a couple of meetings with the chiefs that were supporting the area, surrounding the area, and by the information that I have found, those did not go very well with the other chiefs involved, especially when it started talking about redistricting. In conclusion, it appears to be a bad time to do this. Jobs are being lost, wages are cut, people are losing their lives, and property taxes continue to rise. The state's going to feel it in unemployment and taxes generated for a long time. As a citizen of Cooke County, I would like to see this studied much deeper than it has been in this brief amount of time in this past year. We do not need something rushed through just to make an election date. Thorough discussion and community involvement needs to happen. If citizens do want an ESD, I still believe that Cooke County ESD would be a much better idea than having multiple smaller ones. Up to 10, there's 10 districts. Elected board members, limitations on the amount of tax rate that can be applied for need to happen. The folks who presented ICVFD information said that the districts are planning to form their own ESD soon if ESD 1 goes to a ballot and passes. I know that people always ask me, why do you care? Why are you in this? Why is this my fight? My response is always that I'm a taxpayer in Cooke County, and someday this will affect all of us, and I want to get it under control, get involved in the groundbreaking of forming a Cooke County ESD, if that is the course the county commissioners choose to take. Somebody raise their hand? Okay. What we choose with this request, first request, will set the tone for any others to follow. Anybody have any questions? I have documents here that back everything that I've said and everything that I have found. The proposal that y'all got that were sent to y'all, each one of y'all, it's all self-explanatory. I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have them.
Anybody have any questions?
And remember, this does not include ambulance service. This is only fire protection. and medical, lift, assist, whatever that involves.
All right, thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Brooks.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Item number 11, it is 10:15, open public hearing. Proposed creation of an emergency service district to be known as Cooke County Emergency Service District Number 1. How many people do we have signed up? Five. Would please keep your comments to 5.5 minutes.
Yes, Your Honor. We've had several meetings, both with the fire chiefs, who I think went really well, once we were able to sit down and speak with them individually and talk to them about changing the districts. And we have the map over there that you guys have seen. But what we're here
One
for,
moment, please. I can't hear you. I'm sorry. Is that microphone up?
Pick it up and see if it's light on the bottom. Screen.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay, I'll try and talk a little louder.
okay, that's.
Can you hear me now?
Just a second, is that heater on over there? Something's running.
Yeah, that could be part of it. We're getting interference. I'm sorry. Okay, stop the clock.
That helps a little.
Oh, yeah, that's better. I'm sorry.
That's okay, not a problem.
See,
It is kind of difficult to hear with those. What we're here for today, though, is for the Commissioners Court to take a look at what is set forth in the Health and Safety Code, Section 775017A. And that is, the Commissioners Court should grant our petition to be placed on the ballot for the creation of an ESD if the Commissioner Court finds it's feasible, that it promotes the public health, the public safety, the public welfare, promotes convenience for those persons within the proposed district. So when we look at everything that we've provided for you, some of these will overlap. For example, for the public health and welfare, public health and safety. Of course, the safety of the residents within our ESD is the top priority for us. That's what we're looking at. How can we best serve the people within this proposed district for their safety and welfare? We had 502 emergency calls in 2020, and those were responded by 4 volunteers. And we are depending, as we sit now, we're depending solely upon the volunteers, which creates a potential for loss of life and property if the volunteer force continues to decline, which we're seeing that happen. We had 4, now we're looking at 3, making the majority of the calls. If we had paid first responders available during those peak times, that would help us with the response to these calls. Because what happens is these volunteers that we have work full-time, and many of them have second jobs, and they all have family responsibilities. Our peak call times are between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. That's the generalized time that people work, is from 8 to 5. So if we had these paid responders, paid first responders, they'll be able to supplement what our volunteers do. It would save lives and administer emergency help. What would happen, I ask you, if you called 911 and it took anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes for somebody to respond? A lot can happen in that short period of time. And that's one of the things that we're facing, is that potential, because we're relying solely on our volunteers. When you look at, and the question is often asked, well, how is that going to react? You know, how are paid volunteers going to react with the volunteers or our paid first responders? Well, you have to look at your churches. You have people in the church that are paid, but you also have a lot of volunteers who also work in the church. Look at our charitable organizations. For example, Abigail's Arms. They have paid personnel, but they also have a lot of volunteers. CASA is the exact same way. They have a few, but they also rely heavily on their volunteers who are not paid. And it all works very, very well. So that's really a kind of a non-issue. You see that all the time. As far as the public welfare, the tax rate will be decided by the ESD board. And that ESD board is the ones that are appointed by the Commissioners Court. Personally, I would suggest that we start at 4 cents per hundred as far as the tax rate is concerned. it needs to be important that people understand that the Commissioners Court is not creating a new tax. It's the citizens within that ESD district who will make that decision, not the people outside the proposed district, but the people within that proposed district. It will give the peace of mind for the citizens within the ESD because we will have increased experienced and capable help during the day when our volunteers are not available. It also has to go to fairness. What we're doing is we're asking everybody to pay their fair share instead of relying solely upon donations. If we have a budget that we're able to work with, then we will be able to make our short-term and long-term goals because we will have a specific amount of money with which to work with, a fixed budget, if you will. Additionally, the Cooke County will no longer have to provide funds that they currently do to our ESD district if it's formed. So that will save the commissioners and the citizens, all the citizens of Cooke County some additional funds. I think more than anything else, what we're looking at is democracy in action, because the persons who are residing within the ESD will vote. Do we create the ESD or not? That's not something for the Commissioners Court to make a decision. It is only for the Commissioners Court to look at it and see if we've met the burden to place it upon the ballot for our ESD district residents to make that decision. For example, Mr. Hollowell, I'm sure, doesn't want anybody speaking for him. If he's within the district, and if he chooses to vote for it, he can do that. If he chooses not to, he can do that. His voice will be heard. That's all we're asking for. We're asking.
Wrap up.
Okay. Without an opportunity to vote on the issues, they will not be able to express their beliefs. There's been an overwhelming amount of support both inside and outside Lake Kiowa for the creation of the ESD. The Indian Creek Volunteer Fire Department does not own the building or the land. It leases it on a short-term lease. And that land and that building is not even annexed into Lake Kiowa. A lot of people are under the mistaken impression that that is a Lake Kiowa Fire Department, when in fact it is not. And like I said, we've had a lot of support from people both inside Lake Kiowa as well as outside Lake Kiowa for the creation of the Emergency Services District.
Thank you so much. I have to stop you there.
But we can interact with our.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have one question.
Sure.
Taxes for people that are over 65 that are frozen now, that would not be applicable here. That would be a tax above their frozen rate?
That would be something for the ESD board to make a decision on. They have control over how much the tax rate is, and if they allow people a freeze on their tax because of their age or whatever it might be. That's something that the ESD board will make a decision. And of course, we would certainly encourage that.
Okay, then the other question I would have is that assuming they do want to add a tax on to people that are already frozen, would that tax, and I guess it's going to be up to them to determine whether it's at the value when it was frozen or today's value?
Correct. That would be a decision that the ESD board would make. And of course, we as citizens within the district would certainly have a right to appear before the board and and express our concerns and feelings with regards to that. But that's something that ultimately will be decided by the board, the ESD board, appointed by the commissioners.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Yes, I actually got a text that said, "Who is she?" We failed to ask you to identify yourself initially.
I'm
So if
sorry.
you would identify yourself, please.
Absolutely. I'm Lynn Switzer. I'm an attorney here in town, and I've been devoting my time, volunteering my time, if you will, to represent the Indian Creek Volunteer Fire Department in their proposed creation of the ESD. I think it's a very worthy cause, and I believe as you can look around and see the supporters with us that have been here before, they too feel that it's a very worthy cause.
I've got to spin off the judge's question. It's my understanding, because this hasn't been an established taxing entity, when it's actually created, the over 65 will not be exempt. Now then, as I understand it, the ESD board can choose to give them a $20,000 reduction on their appraised values and stuff of that nature. They can exempt them. So they are going to feel the impact of whatever the number is. Okay, so if we're sitting there currently frozen because Cooke County chose to freeze their taxes several years ago, and their appraisal at the time might have been $200,000.
and it's appreciated now to it's 500,000. It's my understanding, first, they can't be totally exempt, and it's going to be a limited amount of money that they can actually exempt them per household. It's not going to be at the discretion, sole discretion of the ESD, as I understand it.
In speaking with Mr. Smithson, who, in working with this and talking to him about the issue with regards to the taxes, and of course, he and I are neither one are the experts on this, but it's my understanding that the ESD board can create an exemption or a freeze, if you will, on individuals' taxes if they choose to do so.
But they can't say, oh, we're just going to exempt this because you're now discriminating.
Right, right.
You can't just say, okay, because you're over 65,
Right.
we're creating this, but we're not going to charge you a tax.
Right.
So they are going to be impacted, and it could very well be that it starts off at their current value, because the ESD, once established, then will have to vote on what that exemption is going to be, as I understand it.
Correct, correct.
And it's my understanding that even though if we let it go to the ballot or to the election now, under the auspices, we're going to set it at 4 cents, that once the ESD is created, they can take the full 10 cents.
Absolutely, because that's that's a decision that they get to make by statute. But that doesn't mean that they're going to. I think that they would be just as cognizant as the rest of us, because we're all taxpayers, as to what kind of rate are we looking at. And I don't anticipate them starting out at 10 cents. That just doesn't make any sense at all. And I think we've provided y'all with budgets that show the 4, 7, and 10 cents.
You provide us much more information. I appreciate that.
Sure.
I'm just, at all the initial meetings, it was a very robust group, and the focus seemed to be on 10 cents until that doesn't seem to pass the smell test to get it to the election.
Well, and I understand Commissioner Hollowell, but I think more than anything, in the interest of being transparent and letting the community know the potential, that's one of the things that we were making sure that the community knew, that that's what the statute says, is you can do it up to 10 cents. That doesn't mean that that's what we're going to be recommending, as citizens within the ESD. But again, this is a board that you guys appoint, and I'm quite sure that you are going to vet whoever you put on that board, and they will certainly understand and appreciate where we are within our county.
If we allow this to go to the election, you're going to let people from outside Lake Kiowa come in and offer any opposing
I don't see any reason why we wouldn't allow that. I mean, it's a democracy. They are certainly free to come in, as long as everybody understands that doesn't, if they don't live within the district, they're not going to be impacted by it.
Right, but
Right.
if I just want to come into Lake Kiowa and offer an opposing view, I know typically Lake Kiowa doesn't allow any campaigning, any campaign signs, anything of that nature. Is that still?
Well, no, they allow campaign signs, but they're limited on how many you can put in your yard and where they can be placed. There are some restrictions as far as, I think, bumper stickers and that kind of stuff, but it's still allowed, and for that matter, we don't intend to hold all of them within inside Lake Kiowa. We intend to hold several meetings outside of Lake Kiowa, because we do have residents that are outside Lake Kiowa. And again, the volunteer fire department doesn't belong solely to Lake Kiowa. It belongs to everybody within our district.
Anybody, I've got some more questions, but if any of you guys want to weigh in.
No.
Oh, you're doing fine.
Good job, Commissioner.
Thank you very much. I went back to some of the original slides, trying to refresh myself somewhat. In the initial slide says we have 19 firefighters, stuff of that nature.
Yes, sir.
Is it 19 or is it 4?
We have 19, but we only have about 3 or 4 who actually respond to all of the calls.
Slide 2 indicates that 66% of the calls, or 286 of them, are medical calls.
I believe that's correct. Yes, sir.
Does the ESD plan to provide any ambulance service at all?
At this point, I don't believe we plan on it, because what we have at our disposal is trained EMTs, our first responders.
So if I follow that thought process, the people within the district, they're going to pay a tax to an ESD. but we're going to run an ambulance 286 times that they're paying for through the county tax.
I don't really know how to respond to that because I'm not sure exactly how the ambulance service works.
Well, on a medical call, they're going to dispatch an ambulance.
Okay.
Okay, and typically, they're going to dispatch your fire guys who are EMTs, paramedics,
Right.
whatever they are. Okay, so what's going to happen, you have a medical call in this district, Lake Kiowa Fire is going to show up.
Yes,
They're
sir.
not going to be able to transport. So the transport vehicle's going to come out of the county's budget,
Yes, sir.
paid for by everybody in the county.
Yes, sir.
So,
But that doesn't preclude us, if the ESD is successful, as we hope it to be, that for a long-term goal, that we are able to provide some kind of service like that. Again, those are long-term goals. What we're looking at is just what we have right now.
Devin talks to the over 65, we've talked to that. Slide 8 suggests faster response times during the day and highlights how critical it is.
Yes, sir.
For the quick responses. My concern is fires and medical calls don't just happen during the day,
Correct.
and where it suggests faster response times, you look at the people that's going to be out on the perimeters, over close to Gainesville, stuff of that nature. To say they're going to get there any faster, I personally question that. I also understand that if you only have 4 people, they can't run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They really can't staff it during the week and give all of them days off.
What we're looking at is that the majority of our calls come between 8 and 5. That's where the majority of them come, and we have paid first responders to take care of those. And yes, there are calls that come in the evenings or at night, and that's when our volunteers would be able to respond to those.
And so, given that information, I believe that's actually is accurate. So we're back to relying on our volunteers. That response time's not going to. If I don't want to go sell this product to say it's going to be newer, greater, faster, in reality, it doesn't happen between 8 and 5. That's not necessarily going to be the case.
Oh, well, I'm going to disagree with you, Commissioner, and here's why. If you have paid first responders at the station between 8 and 5, or 7 to 6, or wherever it is, you have paid responders that are there. They can respond a lot faster than having to wait for a volunteer who has to leave his job, come out to the station, get suited up, and then make the call. If we have paid first responders there at that station, their response time is going to be a whole lot faster than what our volunteers could do.
And I absolutely agree with that when they're there. Yes, sir. 4 guys can't be there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and when they're not there, we're going to fall back and we're going to rely on our volunteers.
Okay, so you're talking about having 4 paid first responders? Okay.
If you get up to, I think, the staff at 7 days a week for 4 firemen, it's going to be somewhere around 21 people. And you're a long ways from that. I mean,
Well, I don't know exactly how far our volunteers live from the station. I would have to defer to our chiefs to be able to answer that. But I think the point is they are at home, and they will be able to respond much more quickly than what they would be able to if they were at their job.
I appreciate what y'all are doing, or trying to put it together. I'll have some more comments. We need to let some of the others that are signed up to speak, or somebody.
Well, I've got a question or two. How many board members how many commissioners will this, they call them commissioners. How many commissioners will this board have?
I think it's what, 4?
5.
5.
And they have the ability to pay themselves
Yes, sir.
up to
$3,000.
$3,000 each? Okay.
But that doesn't mean they'll do it.
Did I hear per year from the background?
Yes.
Well, I know, but those are all the possibilities. See, the big stumbling block I have with this is feasibility. And anytime a group of people goes into an agreement or down this road with a tax, we all have the best intentions. We all have the best intentions up here. We may all disagree pretty strongly, but we still all have the best intentions. And the feasibility worries me from the standpoint, Commissioner Hollowell, you brought up how many paid firemen you have. I don't know if you can generate enough money to have, I don't even know if you can generate enough money to have 4, 5, or 6 on a yearly basis unless you go to the 10 cents. And then you have no room to I guess grow is the word. Now, how long a terms will they serve?
They serve, I don't have 2 years.
2 years. And I appreciate, I know, we're in America, everybody has a right to their vote. The thing that I don't like is it comes back to us. We have to appoint these folks, and then we have to reappoint these folks. So I am responsible for it, one of 5 people. So it's not just about letting somebody have a vote to tax themselves. At the end of the day, I'm responsible for everything that they do because I have to replace them. So I take this very serious. I'm not being flippant about any of this, but, and you probably have gathered that I'm not just real enthusiastic about it. What happens when Gainesville annexes that ETJ? If they do in the future?
If they do that, and it's
Yeah.
part of our ESD, then they will have to come in and pay us for that portion that they want to annex.
That raises a question.
That raises a question. You go ahead.
I will say, and Barbara was reminding me when we met with the city council, the comment was made that it would be highly unlikely that they would ever come in and try and annex that. I mean, that territory right there is some that Gainesville, the ETJ is Gainesville responds to, but they don't get paid for it. The city doesn't pay them for responding to the ETJ area.
Oh, but the city of Gainesville, I'm going to say, responds to virtually every structure fire in the county, and they don't get paid.
Yeah, they do.
Because, I mean, typically a grass fire is going to get 2 departments, and there's going to be other departments coming to this department if they're fighting a grass fire.
Sure.
On a structure, I think it's common that they automatically dispatch 3 departments. So there's going to be 2 departments arriving in the structure that's not getting paid.
Yeah.
But along those lines, because the ESD doesn't fight fires, it pays people to fight fires, I would wonder if it'd be appropriate for them to pay for the ambulance service provided by the county.
I don't see any reason why they couldn't consider that. I mean, that's certainly, they can, because the ESD as a separate taxing entity can contract with anyone.
Absolutely.
They can contract with the Indian Creek Volunteer Fire Department. If Calipsburg decides to join our ESD, then they will contract with Calipsburg. I don't see any reason why we couldn't at some point, if that's what the board wants to do, is to contract with ambulance services.
Of course, I don't know if the ESD folks understand it, but the ambulance service in Cooke County is our 2nd largest bleeding artery of the taxpayer. And we could quickly, if we made very many calls out there, consume a large part of your budget.
Well, I don't see any reason why the ambulance service couldn't approach the ESD board and say, hey, let's contract and kind of negotiate some kind of a deal with it.
These are just all possibilities.
Right.
I mean, and we need to consider those things.
Sure.
Because we've got other taxpayers paying for those ambulances outside the district.
Right. And the thing about it is, there's been a lot of complaints about how we're trying to run this through and we're hiding stuff, which in fact is not true. We cannot approach the public about the ESD until we are authorized to place it on the ballot. And then we fully intend to go out and discuss it with anybody and everybody who wants to talk to us about it.
We have any idea what percentage of the Lake Kiowa population is in the over 65 group?
I have no idea. Is it?
2/3. Okay, that's a good number. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. I know there's a lot of new blood moving in, a lot of people with young kids that are moving in, so I didn't know what the statistics were on that.
I think that's a huge impact on those over 65, whether they're in Lake Kiowa or outside Lake Kiowa.
And they can certainly vote not to.
I'm sorry, Leon,
I never said a word. I'm listening.
but I interrupted you, sir.
Oh, no. It's, just personal opinion, I think you'll be at the 10 cents rather quickly because they're going to want services, and people want services. That's almost a quarter of our county tax rate.
County's what, 42?
42, something, 42, 42.4.
10 cents, that's 25% of the tax rate. Immediately just that quick, but it's a statement. 11, 12 years to get from the 50.4 cents down to the 42.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm testifying just one time.
1 mil?
Yeah.
It's 1 mil, not 1 cent.
I'm sorry?
Do what? Go ahead.
It's $1 per $1,000 of value. It's not 1 cent. It's so
It's on the hundred, $300,000, right? $300.
$100 on a,
It sounds good if I'm trying to sell it to say it's a penny on a whatever, but the bottom line
Yeah.
is it's $300 a year on a $300,000 home.
Right.
And see, that's the reason I would like to be able, if this goes to the ballot, to go out and call it what it is.
Absolutely.
And the thing about the frozen taxes, so if you've had your taxes frozen long enough, and there are a lot of people that have, your house was frozen at 300,000, and now 10 years later, it's worth $500,000. I don't think it's written in stone anywhere they're going to get to keep that frozen amount. I'm afraid they're all going to come in at the current market value. And I've heard a lot of, it's going to be up to the board, and we hope they will, and we think they will, and we know no one wants to pay more taxes, but if they have to have the money to whatever they dream up to do, they're going to take whatever they're going to have to make it work. That's a concern I have. I don't know if the folks understand. That's one of my big concerns. Is everybody going to realize what can happen? Because I've heard a lot of what can happen and things that, the board surely wouldn't do that. Why would they do that? I mean, they're going to try to make it as cheap as they can, and I'm sure they will, but there's a possibility that, in my opinion, a pretty good possibility.
And I appreciate your position, Commissioner Clement. I absolutely do. But you have to look at the flip side of that, too. If we continue on the path that we're on, we're not going to be able to respond to those people who need our help, because our donations have constantly reduced every year, and we can't depend on those. We don't have the ability to make a good, solid, fixed budget because we don't have solid, fixed income coming in. So you have to weigh that, and that's where the citizens within the district have the opportunity to weigh. Is for example, the savings for your insurance rating, is that going to offset, and more than likely it will offset, the increase in the taxes? Because that ISO rating is very, very important, and it impacts the insurance that you have on your house. So as a citizen within the ESD, I'm going to look at that. I'm going to say, if I'm paying this much in taxes, but I'm saving this much in my insurance, that's certainly going to be something that I think will be worth the difference.
But you're going to have to be within that, isn't it a 5-mile circle? 5-mile radius, Ray?
And
That go ahead, I'm sorry.
how many insurance companies actually use the ISO method for calculation of rate? I know that State Farm doesn't.
It's my understanding that everybody except State Farm, but I could be wrong about that because I'm certainly not in the insurance. But we can't deny them that opportunity to make that informed decision and speak for themselves as to whether or not they want that ESD. Currently, there are, 95 counties in Texas with an ESD for a total of 337 ESDs in the state of Texas. This is where it's going. It's going to the ESD direction, and that's what we need here. We can't be left behind. We can't leave our citizens within our district without the care and the help that they need. And that's why we feel like, and why a lot of people here have donated a lot of time and effort and their own expense to bring this forward, because we feel that it's that critical for us to make that decision as to whether or not we're going to have the continuing service with our fire and first responders that we need. I know that if my house was burning down, I'd want somebody to come. And if there's nobody there because nobody can afford to volunteer, we got a problem.
I find it interesting that I'm being told that people won't donate to something like a fire department, but they're going to vote to tax themselves for it.
It is all a matter of fairness.
When they won't have any control, that's the biggest fear for me, is your citizens won't really have that much control over your ESD. The Commissioners Court will actually have more control over it.
And who do the residents have control over? The Commissioners Court.
And we go off, how long's the term for the ESD board?
I'm sorry?
How long is the term?
2 years. Mhm.
So if we go appoint this board, within that first 2 years that they're appointed, they could immediately jump to 10 cents. Then we'd have to then go back and try to select a group that would reduce that back to 4. And that could be a considerable impact on the taxpayer during that 2 years. And then if you start budgeting at the 10-cent rate, then you get a board that brings it back to 4. That's going to be a real challenge.
Right, and that's why I think that it's important that you completely vet the people that you're going to be placing on the board, and that they are like-minded. And if they go 10 cents, that's the most they can ever go, is because that's the cap. And like I said, I want to make sure that everybody fully understands, it's part of that public education, that it could be 10 cents, but that's not what we're advocating. We're advocating at the 4 cents to give us a fixed budget, so that way we know what to do and how to best plan our way and to protect the citizens within or the residents within our district. I mean, we've got to have something. The commissioners understand budgets, you know? You got to know what your money is so you can make your budget, and we're the exact same way.
Getting back to the board members and the commissioners, now, you won't have a good common sense, level-headed, sweet guy like me sitting here. I won't be here forever.
That's true, but we're going to ask for somebody just like you.
But wait. What? I noticed everybody laughed. That wasn't nice. No. The person that sits in these chairs doesn't live over there. That's what I'm saying. Won't live in that district. The control you think you're going to have over this thing will not be like the control you have over the county taxes. We all 4 represent the county. We don't all 4 live over there. You can't affect my election unless you can. Does that make sense what I'm getting at?
Sure.
That's why I said you won't always have a good level-headed common sense guy, maybe.
Well, we can only hope.
But
We can only hope.
You ever elected you thought was going to be conservative, it turned out to be liberal. You say veto, that's a pretty good, we know getting elected lots of times it's a personality contest more than not they're truly qualified. So I can think
No, I understand, and I appreciate your concerns, and I think they're valid concerns. But I also think it's something that we can work on and address, through public education with regards to this. It's just critical. We're at that point. It is just that critical that we are able to at least present this to the public. And if people outside the district are opposed to it, they certainly have their voice, but they don't vote. They don't vote on this particular issue.
I'm sure I have this number. What's the current budget? What last year's revenues? Not budget, I'm sorry, revenues. Last year's revenues or the last 2 years' revenues?
Between $160 to $200.
So at 4 cents, we're going to come close to doubling.
And again, you got to offset that with the savings and the safety and security that you're going to get as well. I mean, we can paint a picture of doom and gloom all day long, both sides of it.
But I don't know, Ray never did answer the question. How close do you have to be to the fire station for this ISO rating? 5 miles? 5 road miles. So not everybody who's in this fire district is going to have the ability to get this ISO rating.
Well, currently, our ISO rating within certain areas is lower than it is in other areas, and it does have, but I think it also has to do with how far you are from a water source. It's not just the station, it's a water source as well.
So if you don't have fire hydrants there, that's an issue too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
unless you're within 5 miles of.
Right.
yeah.
So, but we've had really good success in lowering our ISO rating. And we plan on continuing to do that. And I think with this ESD district, that's going to give us the opportunity to make that lower ISO rating available to even more of the residents within our district, especially those that we've just kind of annexed in.
Because we put a building, so.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, is we would be able to, if we have a fixed budget, we know how much money we have to spend. And one of the short-term goals is to at least put another building outside a little bit, so that way, that will also impact the ISO rating. And it doesn't have to be a full-blown fire station at this point, but if we have a building there that's designated as a substation, I think it's going to be sufficient where we store some equipment or whatever we need to do. But to be able to do that, that's going to be a positive impact as far as that rating is concerned, not to mention the fact that it's faster response time. I mean, we have a lot of long-range goals, but we also have some short-term goals that we need to deal with as well.
Well, and it was, I think during the last meeting, when it was said, hey, we got to get this thing formed so we can go borrow money. You know, and I'm thinking, especially if you go at the 10 cent, that generates $750,000 a year. You know, if you go at the 10 cents.
Right.
You know, so instead of sitting on it a year, collecting it and sitting on it a year and beginning your bill, you immediately go out and take taxpayer dollars you're collecting and pay interest on it. So it's kind of like the instant gratification thing.
Right, and I think, sure, and I think that what the point was that was trying to be made is the fact that right now, we don't have the ability to borrow any money to be able to repair equipment and that kind of stuff. However, if we have an ESD and we have a contract with them, then we would, if we needed to, have the ability to borrow funds. And as I'm sure this court is completely aware of, the fact that emergencies do arise, and you need to have the flexibility and the ability to rise to those occasions. That doesn't mean we're immediately going to go out and borrow money. It just means that we have that ability that we don't now.
Have y'all ever applied for any kind of grant money, FEMA money?
We do have some applications out for grant money. It's Barbara was telling me we get anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 a year in grant money. So we are trying, you know, to make sure that we do the best that we can to take care of the people within our district, but we are limited.
We're still picking up some vehicles up from forestry, I'm guessing, too.
I believe that's correct.
That's forestry service providing some.
Yeah.
They do a point system, and they don't have a point system for years.
Of course, I guess you had a brush truck off that point system at one point in time that's not there anymore.
We got the tender off point system.
Yeah, the tender.
That was like 239,000, and it cost us like
Yeah.
40.
So, yeah, we're doing our due diligence, you know, to do the best that we can to take care of our people.
How many people do we have signed up to talk? Okay.
I'm saving all my points for whenever we discuss it amongst ourselves.
Anything else from anyone? Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all's attention.
The next one on the agenda is Bob Smith.
You all right, could I post it in?
Thank you. Thank you.
Bob, if you're comfortable, yeah, we can drop your mask so we can hear you.
Thank you. In my opinion, there needs to be discussion, communication before this is put on the ballot, including everyone in the fire district. One of the things that the Indian Creek Fire has done poor communications with people outside of Kiowa. Communicate has done a great job with Indian Creek and its publications. Unless you own property there, you will not get this, including financial reports, when meetings are, etc. One of the problems is that people outside of Kiowa think Kiowa owns the Indian Creek Fire Department, because it's located on their property. According to the February's communique, there were 9 structural fires, 6 grass fires, 33 rescue medical calls, 5 service calls, 4 good intentions, 1 false alarm call, totaling 52 calls. Majority of the medical rescue calls were inside of Kiowa. These calls were to help the older population of Kiowa. One suggestion for Kiowa's property owners is to have their own EMT inside of Kiowa. When donations declining, having a quick fix by putting this on the tax roll can never be removed. If it passes, you will see donations decline. If there was more communications to people outside of Kiowa in the fire district, such as having benefits and drives, more donations could be possible. The Indian Creek Fire Department must look into other fire departments surrounding this district to see how they were being successful. Having a major business plan is essential. In closing, God bless Texas, God bless Cooke County, God bless Indian Creek Fire Department. I would like to thank the Commissioners Court for giving me time to speak.
Thank you, Bob. Anyone have questions for Bob? Thank you, sir. Next on the agenda is Ronnie Felderhoff.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk. And I personally want to thank all the firefighters, volunteer, paid, EMS, everybody that deals with emergency situations. I'm a volunteer firefighter. I'm a certified firefighter. I have been for 42 years over at Munster. I have some issues with this. First, I want one question that my chief made sure that I ask. Are those boundaries set? Is there a contract signed on it? Because it's been a squabble back and forth. Don't do anything unless there's a set contract. Don't even make a motion to go to a vote. Those boundaries can change on a heartbeat. If it's not signed, don't do it. Now, a lot of my own personal opinions, this fire district is another taxing entity. It's actually going to take up 23.8% of the county budget if they go 10 cents, which will happen. Nothing against anybody from Lake Kiowa, but it just costs money to do it. We have a great fire department in Munster. All the fire departments are great. The people that do things are great. Getting volunteers is tough. Getting donations is tough. We work hard for those donations. We have a note for almost $1 million that we're making payments on. We budget every year for what we do. We're spending $5,000 every 5 years on personal protective equipment for each member. We get the donation that everybody gets from the county. We also get a stipend from the city, but the rest we cover ourselves. The district, it's going to be no taxpayer representation. You guys are going to appoint somebody, and they can do whatever they want. They don't have to give anything to Indian Creek Volunteer Fire Department. They can say, well, we need to give that to the Cooke County Ambulance. They can do with it what they want. They can't get volunteers, then they can possibly pay everybody $3,000. They can do a sales tax if they want. That's all in the works. There's too many questions. What can they do? They can do fines. They can bring outside consultants in to levy these fines, to set up fire codes. They can charge you, making sure that you're charged on every call. And the people in Lake Kiowa would not have that choice, much less if you do it for the whole county. That would be insane. That's going to be the quickest way to get all of y'all replaced. So I understand Funding is an issue. I feel sorry for everybody at Lake Kiowa, but they're wanting to bring some full-time firefighters on. You're just going to have 2 full-time firefighters 24/7. You're going to have at least 6, probably 8, so you can cover vacations. It's going to cost you a minimum of $60,000 a year. That's $480,000 right there. And as I understand, they're wanting to have some paid volunteers to pay for so many calls. And I understand it's a real pain to leave your job to go and fight a fire, go to a wreck, put a defibrillator on one of your friends, pull one of them out, then you have to deal with the whole COVID. Over half of our department has had COVID as we've responded. Chief told me to stay at home because I'm over 65. I'm not long for the department, but I love it. We had one man that had to cut somebody out of the vehicle, got COVID from that guy. The man was dead. It's the only place he knows where he got COVID. He was in a hospital for 3 weeks, ICU in Denton. So everybody that's on the fire department, y'all need to say a prayer anytime you hear an ambulance, because everybody here is putting their life out on the line. I don't know what the answer is, but this fire district, emergency service district, is too many unanswered questions. It's an open check line. You know, the worst thing you can do is say, I'm from the government and I'm here to help you. Well, you're setting up another government entity, and I understand they've got problems. We all have problems. We run short on funds at Munster. Every department wants more money, but what is going to be enough? You know, I don't know what the answer is, but I think this has too many questions, and you're going to have bullets flying everywhere, and the people are not educated enough about what this district will do to the county. It will destroy fire departments. Donations will go down. I can guarantee you donations will go down.
Thank you, Ronnie. Any questions for Ronnie?
How's it gonna hurt fire department? He said it'll hurt the small fire departments, or
How will it hurt? Who's gonna, if you would do, you're talking about if you do a countywide?
yeah.
If you do a countywide, how does the people that y'all would appoint as commissioners, how do they all know what every department needs? It's all going to get political. It's going to get political. Don't think that it won't. It all gets political. You guys know it's political. Half of what y'all do is political.
Not half,
Probably more.
nearly all. Of some version. Everything's political. What do you say?
Anything else for Ronnie? Thank you, Ronnie.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next up is Doris Floyd. Doris here.
On phone.
Doris? Do we have her on the call?
She's sat in physically.
Say again? Yes, 7511. Hi, Doris. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Doris Floyd. I just would like to address the commissioners. There's too many variables to be worked out on this situation. A lot of what I had written down to speak about have already been addressed in issues with Ray and the guy that just spoke. I forget his name. But the effect on all taxpayers in the proposed area, has a budget been prepared and distributed to look at? Property owners, there's property owners in that proposed area that don't have a address in that area. They own homes and properties, but they're not going to be allowed to vote in that election. So they're being taxed with staff representation. How are you going to be support existing fire departments, volunteers who graciously give their time, dollars, and commitment to provide existing services? Some of those properties in the proposed map that I see, which is hard to read, put the response time, including other volunteer fire
Hey, Doris, can I stop you for just a minute, please?
be taxed and have to have a response from someone farther away. I was curious about the vast majority of the signatures being from Lake Iowa. I didn't put the numbers to it, but looking through the signatures and the addresses, I would say probably at least 98% was from Lake Iowa or immediately surrounding that area. No one's ever contacted us, having property in that proposed district about this. What I would like to say is that with that ISO rating that Ray talked about, will the Kiowa people, homeowners, have enough to, it'll make me wash on their tax rate of this is not going to be impacted for other property owners in that area, because they're not going to have it close enough, or they're not going to have the water hydrants to support it. I'd just like to say to the commissioners that it's too early to vote on something like this. If you're going to do something to consider all the county residents, not just in that particular area. And you're going to be placing financial burden, not just 65 and over, but you've got a lot of people that are in fixed income in that area that is going to impact their way of living. These are things to consider when doing it. So, in closing, I would like to say that if you vote in favor today and allow this election, you're just going to be needlessly spending more dollars holding this election when you could be better serving the entire Cooke County community. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Doris. Anybody have anything for Doris? All right, next on the agenda is Richard Walker.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. Richard Walker, President of the Board of Directors for the Lake Kiowa Property Owners Association. So I want to say thank you for your service. I want to say I am extremely thankful for all the volunteers for the Indian Creek Volunteer Fire Department. I know it is extremely important to all the residents of Lake Kiowa. You mentioned how many are elderly. So when we talk about the age of people at Lake Kiowa, I'll tell you that our board of directors voted unanimously to support the efforts of this ESD formations. So everybody on there, with the exception of me, is probably over 65, and I'm right there on the edge, you know. So again, if it's your house, it's on fire, if you're the one having a medical emergency, you want a top-notch emergency service responder. So it's so hard on those volunteers right now. We're mentioned there's 19, but only 4 of them are the primary responders to all of these emergencies. Can you imagine the burnout on those folks? So while we only may have 2 or 4 paid ones, whatever the number is, maybe they can't cover the whole 24/7 week, but it takes the pressure off of those 4. They're all responding to everything. So I want to keep that in mind. You know, it's not perfect. Nothing ever is. But we want to go in the right direction. And as far as the Lake Kiowa Board of Directors, we unanimously support this effort toward that. All we're asking for right now is to let the citizens vote. Again, thank you for hearing me. Any questions for me?
Thank you, Richard. Anyone? Thank you, sir.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Last on the agenda is Ray Westbrook.
Judge, Commissioners, again, one last time, most everybody has said things that are important to them and how they feel on what they, and how they stand. I want to reiterate a couple of points. Mr. Felderhoff made a great one. Volunteer departments require on volunteers, funding, and donations. I drove around and looked at every single volunteer fire department about 3 weeks ago. Munster, Lindsay, Kellisburg, they all have nice facilities. Munster's is brand new. I don't know how long it took them to get their donations or how much they've borrowed or what they're doing, but that's one heck of a facility. Y'all are the best. Things to remember, ESD is funded in many different avenues. We've talked about it, we've discussed it. Ad valorem tax, property tax, sales tax, fees, call charges, fines. They can issue bonds and loans. And if anybody cares to donate, once they're taxed, they can get it in donations. Other things to remember, it's a taxing government entity. They will be appointed people by y'all, by the Commissioners Court. May not be y'all, maybe somebody new. A couple of years from now, who knows? Always remember, they are appointed. We cannot get rid of them as a taxing, voting person. We cannot. No public control once it's enacted. They can write a fire code and enforce it. They can inspect and force to comply it. Per call fee, false alarm fee, hazardous material fees. They can charge penalties and fines. They have policing power. They can have their own fire marshal. They can have their own fire inspector. They can use nonprofits and service providers. They can sue, they can lend, and they can put a lien on your property if you do not pay their fines. Always remember, volunteers are volunteers. Any questions?
Anybody have anything for Ray?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ray.
For all your investigation.
Anything else from anyone?
I'm Dr. Dennis Dangles, I'm president of the board of the Indian Creek Volunteer Fire Department. I'm a retired colonel, U.S. Army, mostly reserve service. And the number of comments today are very, very telling in many ways. We can't sustain what we're doing the way we're doing it. And we started, when this process started, we had 4 primary responders. Right now, this past year, we had 502 calls. One person made 300 of those calls. Another person made 200 of those calls. The next person made 100. And from there, it drops to 80 and then 40 and then some fewer than 10 calls. They all work full-time. Most of them have a second job. With an ESD, we could actually help some of them turn that second part-time job into a part-time job in the 8 to 4 corridor, and we would try to have part-time firefighters, not full-time. The reason Lake Kiowa Fire Department, the reason Indian Creek Volunteer Fire Department is located inside, right outside the gate of Lake Kiowa, is that we lease that building. Right now, it's a temporary lease. We pay $1 a year. We don't have the funds to go build a department building, a facility. If we did, there'd be one on 902, and there'd be an ancillary one with vehicle storage that people could flock to at a strategically located place in the district, so we could have that proximity that's been talked about. The Indian Creek is proposing and hoping that we'll get an election for ESD number 1. Now, ESD number 1 could be county-wide. There are no limits to how many volunteer fire departments can be contracted with an ESD. Parker County has a number of ESDs. Each of them has certain VFDs within it. Denton County, as I understand it, has one ESD for a number of departments in Denton County. So that is, the idea that we would need multiples is not, there wouldn't have to be. In other words, some other units that wanted to join ESD1 could simply hold their own petition process and be incorporated within that same ESD. At any rate, we did have 340 people. We needed 100 signatures. We had 340 people sign that petition. We had 15 speakers here at the last public hearing speaking in favor. We had one person in opposition, primarily because of the location of the fire station, which we lease for $1 a year because we can't afford a separate place. And we've really had, I think, we've really done all we can to try to get this to the voters. And we will do our best to educate the voters as to why we really can't sustain what we're doing the way we're doing it right now. And we really do need some more specific means of income you can count on so that we could consider bettering the service to everyone across this 60 square mile area. Thank you for the opportunity to share that.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Anything else, commissioners? Any questions? Okay, it is 11:18. We'll close the public hearing. Agenda item 13, deliberate and consider possible actions concerning the creation of Emergency Service District to be known as Cooke County Emergency Service District Number 1.
Everybody at once.
Did you had some comments?
Of course, I'm in the hot seat on this one because it's my precinct. Some of the concerns. I tried to poll people and visit with people, some of the concerns that have been brought up today, kind of the taxation without representation with people living outside and either second homes or ranch properties, farms. A lot of people mentioned, signatures all being from Kiowa. And I think that it boils down to that's one of the hardest things to use. Munster wanted to be an ESD. I think it would be a lot easier for us to shove it out to a vote because you don't have such a concentrated group. The outsiders, people feel like it's outside versus Kiowa. There's no doubt about that. You can see that with all the comments. It feels like it's Kiowa versus the outside world. If it was out in the Munster Fire District, it would be the residents of that community. You don't have a concentrated population in one area. And I think that boils down to people not being informed. It is, extremely hard to inform people in a rural area. I think that's going to be, if we were to let it go out for vote or not, it's just hard to educate people in a rural area. I'm just throwing out some stuff here and we can talk about how y'all want to. And if it's like someone said at the last meeting too about, this is the first district that we do. We have to make sure we dot our I's and cross our T's because there are mentioned when you follow suit, have to make sure we do this right. I'd like to hear some other thoughts and talk about it now.
Well, I'll add to what Commissioner Snug has said. I think one of the concerns for me is the ambulance service. It appears that the vast majority of the calls were health-related. And of course, if in time, you may be able to supply an ambulance service, and that would be ideal. I just don't know how much that would cost. The other thing that concerns me is the ISO. I think it would be nice if the residents in that district had a break on insurance, but nobody presented any data as to what percentage of the residents in that area would get the break and what percentage wouldn't. I think it all depends on who the carrier is of your insurance. So me personally, I would like to have seen that information. And then setting the boundaries, I don't know that I fully understand that, whether we are those set in stone? Is everyone signed off on them? Okay.
Is there a contract, Judge? I don't know. That was a good question.
Yeah, a contract, is there a contract?
I would think it would be up to us if we set the boundaries and have it.
Gotcha.
Everybody signed on.
Okay.
We went around, scheduled each one of them, and they signed off on every one before this team times after we had that meeting. So everything's been signed off. I don't know if it was necessarily a contract. It's just a brand, that's what boundaries are set.
Thank you for that clarification.
You know, and to speak to one thing that you just mentioned, Judge, you know, I've written that too, you know, the responder where the fire departments do run with the ambulance, you know, you sit here and look at the call volume and most of it's medical, and oh, well, at first glance, you can strike that, but you can't because there's so many residents that depend on that, and the fire department does need the ambulance there a lot of the time, not all the time, but a lot of the time, and provides faster care for the elderly, you know. Or call 111 people that get injured or, you know, have medical emergencies too.
Good point. Anyone else?
You want to hear me some more? Since you brought up Munster, if I tried to help push this to Munster, I probably wouldn't be here anymore. The reason Munster works is because, because Munster works. You know what I mean by that, don't you, Ronnie? They work together. It's a community. The community rallies around it. The community owns it. They feel like they all have buy-in. A lot of volunteers over there. So everybody, most of the families, all of the families, feel like they all own a piece of that fire department. And we've got a good bunch of people over there. Yeah, to try to replicate what Lindsay does, they're all good. Any fire department where you have volunteers that are doing something, they're all doing it out of the kindness of their heart. I'm sure they're not doing it for the pay and the glory. I know that. But this whole thing about the sales tax and all the authority the ESD has worries me. I don't know who can keep that in check. And go ahead, you were going to say something.
There are 330 some ESDs already in Texas. I'm not aware of anyone who ever had a scandal or any kind of huge disarray. So the track record thus far is quite good. In Parker County, I'm familiar with a good friend of mine, was a chief and all, and they really have not had the sort of service have not serviced where people are going to be irresponsible.
Is that one that you're familiar with? Is it a combo department with paid and volunteer?
That's correct. That's the norm within ESD, that you find part-time paid personnel filling the peak call times when most other people are employed. Most of the volunteers are employed. And you also incentivize volunteers to fit. There's a state pension plan for firefighters that's inexpensive, but it's an incentive. Pay per call, $10 per call. Relatively low, but modest incentive for volunteers who are working in these departments.
And I understand, I'm sure there's lots of ESDs all across the country that work well. I'm also well aware of the single biggest complaint that I have heard or I've been on a school board, a tax board, or this board for 40 years, and the biggest complaint that I've ever heard, and it's the most one that gets beat constantly, which gets argued more than any other thing in the halls of Austin and Washington DC, is my taxes are too high. And it's a balancing act. Why did you do that? Now my taxes went up. And don't take that lightly either, because, and I know you don't, but it is the biggest question.
Yeah, that's one of the concerns brought to me too.
Yeah.
Fixed incomes and
Yeah,
taxes.
and taxes.
Of course, the thought might be if Lake Kiowa chose to incorporate, they could actually convert their security law enforcement. They could have their own fire department. They could have their own ambulance service, and they could control it. So,
Personally, before I could vote on anything, I'd like to look into more of that rural business. I say rural business, but not rural, the power and the scope of the authority of an ESD. Does that make sense, Judge?
There's a brief outline on the authority there that Lynn's just handed us. But I tend to agree. I'd like to digest more of this before we make
I'll make a motion, we table this so we can get some more information on this.
have a motion from Commissioner Clement that we table item number 13.
I'm second that. We need some discussion.
Well, haven't you had the discussion?
I mean, this may be a question for Lynn. I don't know if anybody on the court can answer this.
Okay.
What's the last day, Lynn, we have to make a decision before, and get it on the ballot? Please, I can't hear two talking at one time from back there.
It'll be Friday.
This coming Friday?
Oh,
Thought that might be an issue,
And that's just to put it on the main ballot.
not the general election.
Right, we could always call a special election.
I always call a special election.
Pay for it.
So we're getting good at it.
Yeah.
Can?
Yeah,
Wait
again.
a minute.
I didn't see you down there.
I can read that statute, but does it say you can call a special election? Does it say you can call a special election? I was thinking it said it had to be on a uniform election day.
Okay.
I would think
Now,
so.
look at that statute. I didn't bring it in here.
So the next uniform election date would be
November.
November.
So what's the next one, Pam? Do you know?
November.
November.
This is a question for Ed. Ed, have you had a chance to look at any of this, that statute? So and forgive me for not making good notes when he was talking at first. If they show the points, are we under any legal obligation to let it go to vote, or it's still at our discretion?
You determine if it's feasible, you determine if it serves the public welfare, you determine whether or not it's going to work. And if you say it doesn't, you don't vote for it.
I don't think we're going to get an answer by Friday. And that would be a special meeting of the court. I appreciate everybody's effort, I do. Based on voter apathy and limited communications, I think the vote would be weighted heavily by Lake Kiowa residents. I personally think this court's the last defense between the residents of this district and the 10-cent tax act. I don't think it's feasible to burden the taxpayers, some for which will get limited service. And this ESD doesn't take into consideration at this point in time, we haven't heard it in our different meetings, ambulance service. I'm going to make the motion, we take no action on this item today.
I have a motion by Commissioner Hollowell to
Hey, you got a problem. I already made a motion.
Oh, I think we got one motion to
Let's go back to the table. You're correct.
All
I
right.
apologize.
You want to just take no action and not table it? Is that what you're telling
I'm
me?
not going to talk, you do what you, you can withdraw if you want to, you do whatever you want, but
What's the implication if you take no action?
you talking to me?
Comes up on the
Yes.
next
Go ahead.
agenda.
I'm sorry?
It comes up on the next agenda.
No action, if you table it, it comes back in exactly the form it's in, is my understanding. No action, they can bring it back, but no action means no action.
No action means no action. If I make a motion to table it, that means it comes back in 2 weeks. Okay. That's what I thought, but I wanted to make sure everybody got it clarified so they understood it. I'll withdraw my motion.
2 weeks is beyond Friday.
Gotcha.
Wednesday.
I'm withdrawing mine. Now you're gonna,
Okay, now I have a motion by Commissioner Hollowell to take no action.
So that's first capture. You okay, Pam? You good? with
yeah,
the motion?
you understand what we did? Okay.
He went through the motion. I'm going to make my motion that we take no action.
I'll second that.
Have a second to take no action on item number 13 by Commissioner Hollowell. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Oops.
No.
You got to ask. No.
Yeah, I sit here.
He's
I'm
not
sorry.
here.
I'm sitting in the hot seat here, you know. So if we do it like this, it's just up to them to bring it back to us with more information and after educating the public, is that what you're saying?
If we do it like this, what will happen is it will have to be further discussed and considered between now and November. It will not be on the May election.
And I had other thought processes in my head whenever they were talking, can it go on the November general election?
Yes. Pam says yes.
But I don't want to see it rushed either, so I mean, I'm fine with doing this, I just want to make sure what I'm saying.
What does it cost us to do a countywide election? About 30 grand, tops. But just a single area like that would be, but you can't, no. But it'll be included in a regular election, so there won't be any extra cost. Well, there'll be some extra cost, but minimal.
If it's in November. Joint election.
Any further discussion?
You're still waiting, I think, on Commissioner Snuggs, and I get his wanting to take a minute.
I'll vote nay on it.
Okay. The motion to take no action on item number 13 passes 4-1.
If I could, if we could get some specifics from you, that you have specific questions about, it's not so much and tax issues in regards to those.
Being totally transparent, I'm concerned about the ability to tax at 10 cents, and I see no way to prevent that from happening if we create it. And I'm going back to, I heard a lot of conversation, I heard a lot of enthusiasm about the 10 cents. And in all honesty, I don't agree with even the 4 cents. We're limited by the state to 3.5, and I don't think that the state ought to be telling us what to do necessarily. So why do I need to be telling ESD? If we create you, we need to turn you loose. And I think when we turn you loose, you're going to see a 10-cent tax rate.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Thank you. Agenda item number 14, deliberate and consider possible actions regarding agreed changes to volunteer fire department boundaries. Want to speak to this?
I'm sorry.
Oh, item number 14. Is it there? Is it this? I bet it is, okay.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, we probably voted on the wrong
Yeah.
line item.
I make the motion that we take no action on item number 14. Gary Hollowell seconds it. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item number 15, deliberate and consider possible actions regarding scrap tire program through TCOG. Commissioner Hollowell?
We've talked this a couple of times. We probably need to work on some specifics. We've been told by TCOG they will provide us a semi-trailer, and we were initially told we thought it would handle 1,000 tires. It's now, we believe, 600 tires.
If you're lucky.
Yeah, if we're lucky. And some of the other counties are getting their trucks filled up, and we haven't taken any action at this point. So if we really want a truck, we need to make some plan to accept the tires, and this may have been before you, Adam, but whether or not we wanted each precinct to be able to collect 150, or how we want to do that and where we want to do it at. So,
Yeah, so Fannin County is the one that had the most tires, but they have a program. Somebody's raising their hand. Oh, you're here.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Would you mind getting up on the podium? She seemed like a very nice lady, and I've talked to her on the phone, so I know she wouldn't say.
Yeah, I'm not shy.
She's not shy, trust me.
Well, really quickly, can I take a few minutes to explain where the money comes from?
if you will, start by identifying yourself and who you're with.
Great. Well, my name is Catherine Krantz. I am the Community and Economic Development and Municipal Solid Waste Program Planner at TCOG. TCOG, Texoma Council of Governments, serves Cooke, Fannin, and Grayson counties. We are funded by membership dues of the 3 counties plus 30 to 40 cities in that region that pay TCOG. We also get government funding, grant funds, state, local, and federal funds. I'm a planner, so what I do is I write regional plans, 5-year, 10-year, 20-year, 2-year plans that identify community needs. Once we identify those community needs in the region, we go searching for funds, or we allocate existing funds to meet those needs. My program, Municipal Solid Waste, is funded by the Texas Commission of Environmental Quality through pass-through grants from the EPA. We have identified household hazardous waste as a key need in our community. To that end, we do once every 2-year household hazardous waste collection events. That has traditionally been how we handled the problem. Unfortunately, it was not solving the problem. We spent in 2019 almost $150,000 for our 3-county region to help people clean out their garages, their sheds, get rid of the paints, the pesticides, the dangerous things that so adversely affect our environment, our public health, our first responders, public health. It's a really serious problem in our region. We don't ever have enough funds for it. We've recently changed our program dramatically in the last 2 years to try to save money, come up with more cost-effective ways. In the process of reordering the grant funding, I am proud to say that we were able to shave off a lot of those expenses, come up with some more efficient use of the limited funds that we had. One of those more efficient ways is, instead of offering tire collection at our once every 2-year collection events, we're coordinating among the commissioners in the area so that they can collect tires year-round to maximize the amount of tires we can collect. What happened last time was we just had a trailer at an event, and we paid the same amount of money whether we collected 1,000 tires or 100 tires, and we were sending tire trailers back half full, knowing very well that we have a problem of illegal dumping and scrap tire dumping in all of the areas, especially rural communities, which TCOG serves. We know that that is not addressing the problem. So it was my job to come up with a more efficient use of the funds. One of those things were to offer every county at least 1 trailer. And if you had 1,000 tires, of course, we did unfortunately find out that you can't really fit 1,000 in the trailer. It's all about how you stack them and how well you fit them in there. Fannin County told us they only could fit 600. But if you had 600 tires right now, I could send a trailer tomorrow. And just to make a joke here, as someone from rural Texas, we hear this joke all the time when the government shows up and offering to help. You should be worried, but I'm here to tell you I'm a proud government employee, and I am incredibly frugal. I'm very proud of the good stewardship of taxpayer-funded funds in my program, and I have money. So I have money because I found cost savings in my department. I have money because COVID-19 kept me from going to a single education conference in 2 years. So I found a little bit extra money, and I'm offering the counties a scrap tire trailer. The only thing is, you have to coordinate amongst yourselves to find a location. In Fannin County, they picked one of the precincts. We delivered the trailer. They coordinated amongst themselves to get the tires. Some of the commissioners had a pile of tires at their precinct barn all the time. So they just,
Those guys over there let folks bring tires to their barns. We don't do that here. I spoke to you a couple of months back, and you said, are there really that many tires out there? I said, sure there are. They're everywhere. People just don't bring them in. Now, we've never set up a program where we've let the public bring tires to our barn. I don't know how we would set that up, but that is where Fannin County's getting all their tires. We have to come up with some mechanism. And we're not talking about us getting rid of our precinct 4 tires. We're talking about the public.
Absolutely.
If you've got 4 car tires.
and mainly,
Yeah.
right, and that's mainly where they come from. People throw them in the ditches. Now, there is something that if people on their own private land have 500 tires, 100 tires, 200 tires, that is totally different. That is landowners' responsibility for environmental cleanup. So that's why when you do have collection events, you usually do put a limit.
Yeah,
4
you'd have to
tires,
put
10 tires.
Yeah, you'd have to put a limit on.
But at the end of the day, any tire that is in the ditch or in the ground affects all of our water supply, affects our environment. They don't really break down. So, and they also are breeding grounds for mosquitoes. So the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality has made scrap tire a priority. It's a priority all the time. Every couple of years, they revisit it and try to encourage us to do more. And because I had extra funding in my program, I decided to focus it on tires. And I know that there is a great need in Cooke County. It's oftentimes served by, there's a few tire shops that will allow people to come in and they pay. I'm not exactly sure, it's a small amount, but, and then those people will contract with disposals, and it just covers the cost of transportation. It's not anything they're making any money off of. So tires are a problem. Whether they are an obvious problem is different for each county. But the thing is, I'm sure that there are tires that we can help you with here in Cooke County. It's just a matter of if you have them all in a pile right now, or if you want to go collect some, or if it's not a priority. The bottom line for me is, if the counties identify to me that this is a real help for them, because it's about a $3,000 cost per trailer, $2,750, something like that. If it's something that benefits, then I'll try to budget for it every year. And it'll be something that you can get a little bit of help with your tire disposal costs every year.
If you take $3 a tire.
And we just need to decide how we're going to do it. But that was it's like April or something.
Well, my grant funding is through August 31st. So you get a certain amount of money, you're supposed to spend it, and I have to spend it by the end of August. And if it's not going to go to tires, I'm going to use it for something else, because that's what I'm doing. I'm looking for every little bit of money that I have and putting it to good use. We're starting looking into battery disposal. We're looking into prescription drug disposal. We're looking into propane tanks. So I'm an aggressive planner. So I want to know who wants the money, and if you don't want it, I'm going to go spend it on something
The auditor
else.
has a question back
So-
there, I think. No, it's not the auditor. The auditor's over there. It's that lady. Sorry.
And I'm not a not gonna lie. But I have one of my business owners, my clients that operates a dumpster service. And they talked to me about expanding their dumpster service to pick up tires for free. But then they come around and use it to talk about whatever for the playground stuff. I'm not going to go into details because I don't know. So if there's some way to make you and the county to where they would use their dumpster service, use their dumpsters to pick up the tires, and no cost to you, and that's where you're not going to something else.
But the cost for me is the transportation and disposal. It's a company that does it. Now, this company that I use also uses, recycles them. So there's not a lot you can do with scrap tires. They can use them for cement kilns in the cement industry, so in areas with a lot of,
local, and I have not talked about, it just struck me as interesting with I want.
Right, well, and I would love, I'll give you my card, you can put me in touch with them.
They have multiple.
Yeah.
And it's for your money.
Well, I would think that that person probably contracts with a company like I do. So I think they would probably have the same expenses that I do. They might have it a little bit cheaper. Some of the people that do high volume do get it cheaper. But if a tire goes into a dumpster, it's going to the landfill and it's charged per, or it's going to a company that chops them up and puts them in the landfill because it's cheaper, or they send them to the cement kilns. And then there's also, like you said, the playgrounds and stuff. That's just, oh gosh, I think it's like less than 6%. But there is options for the tires, but I'd love to talk to you about that. I think that,
If we could set up a Saturday, 2 tires only, maybe out here at the jail,
Where are you gonna store them?
in the
Are
truck,
you gonna put them in the truck?
maybe. And if they, put it in the paper and say, hey, each vehicle can bring 4 tires.
well, the only problem with that is that's what we've done in the past. And that's when we have had a truck that could fit 600 tires and we got 50, 100, 200.
But it was part of the hazardous waste, right? The focus wasn't just on tires. And
You were limited to like a certain size car tire, and you could only bring like 1 or 2, and I know you're gonna have to have a limit on it, but if you can bring truck tires, like an 18-wheeler tire or a pickup tire,
They can be anything that's an on-road tire.
Can't be
They
an
can't be a
ATV.
tractor, they can't be an ATV, it has to be on-road, they can't have rims. Now, the size wasn't a concern, but it was highway legal tires.
okay. So I understand that. Now, how long can that truck sit there? Does it have to only be there for the weekend, or could it stay a couple of weeks?
I have got conflicting answers about that, but not very long. It's more than a few days, but not a few weeks. So,
over 2 weekends or something, but I was just trying to think it forward, consolidate on the weekend, because the alternative is each of us collect some at our facilities, and we have to take them to the truck, and we're kind of double handed. And if we did it one day, I don't mind sending the person in to help out and just go straight from the donors on the street vehicle into the truck, and we handle it one time.
It'll be one of the over,
we do have,
trucks full and start.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we'll take up to four tires until we're full.
we do have an event coming on April 24th, and is our household hazardous waste collection. It's in conjunction with that. So that is one date if you wanted to do that date or before. The only risk would be you don't fill up the trailer. If you don't fill up the trailer, then there's your chance to get the tires.
Right.
Yes.
Okay,
Very much.
well, if that's,
And we take them until we have to come.
yeah.
And that's what day?
Well, our household hazardous waste event is the 24th of April
In Cooke County.
in Cooke County in Gainesville. So we can do that.
If you're gonna let people bring in 18-wheeler tires, you're gonna have to have a way to pick them up and put them in the truck.
But if we want the paper, I mean, we want to limit it to car tires,
No, I wouldn't do that.
or truck tires. My truck has 8 or 10 or 12.
I don't know, did you use inmates?
Yeah, that's what they,
Put them in a truck, right, can't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, free.
Can the inmates come outside right now and
Didn't allow me to take them out.
Okay. Yeah, you've got that too.
We can
That's
take a
what-
skid steer up there,
Yeah.
with a bucket, jump.
yeah, that's what we did in Fannin County. We used inmates, and then this past time, they weren't allowed to use inmates, so they got city employees. And, it's an 18-wheeler trailer, so only about 2 people can fit inside at a time, and they just toss them up and stack them.
Once they get them in there, they'll just roll them.
Yeah. I mean, it's not easy, but it's not impossible.
So, do we think maybe we'll make a concentrated effort to get that in the paper? And what does that number need to be? Up to 4 tires per vehicle, either up to and including truck tires?
we will do that until the president?
Yeah, when the trying to build it up, so we are,
So everybody that shows up can bring 4 tires
yeah, till we,
till we're full.
and everything else.
So-
Countywide collection.
You send your wife in with pickup, and then you go in, after she's done, then you get Junior to come up, you get rid of. But you'd be getting tires out of the environment, so it's, yeah.
What we do with our HHW events is we require an appointment in advance, online appointment, and that is to make sure that everyone reads the restrictions and also learns the rules, and because of that, no one has to wait in line, because that was the problem in 2019, people were having to wait an hour, 2 hours, and then get turned away. By making them go online to do the appointment, we were able to get, in our last event in Sherman, get people in and out 3 to 4 minutes each, just in and out. The more things they have to unload, there'll be more difference, but it shouldn't be more than 10 minutes. So what we have on our website for tires, up to 4 automotive tires per household for free. No off-road tires, no ATV or tractors, street legal automotives only, no tires on rims, no rotting or disintegrating tires accepted. And then I list where year-round you can dispose of tires at the Tazewell landfill. But it's a form, and I can make sure that you all have the information about that and how to promote it, and maybe some ads, and we can just do that.
If we could, Cooke County, if you want to make the appointment through you,
Yeah, it's just an online form, and it's the easiest way.
I think we'll get less participation, just because I have some elderly that won't do them. They'd love to bring the tires, but they're not going to do the.
They're not gonna get on an online deal, yeah.
It's true. And what we did in Sherman County, Grayson County, we had up to 400 appointments, and we had only about 150. 100, well, less than 150. Because of that reason, people want to make appointments. But the people that did come had a really great experience. No waiting in line, no problems. And they went out advocating for the new system. And we were able to budget our money, and instead of spending almost $150,000, we spent less than $20,000. So it was a real win for us.
Make it for person.
I don't have a problem.
Yeah, I mean,
Now, we can do that for tires.
yes.
And that's, oh, and that was my point, sorry, is that at the day of, we still had appointments. So people did just show up. So we can do that as well.
And you went ahead and accepted them, even if they didn't have an appointment?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we can also make tires a different line so that the people who just show up with tires don't cut in line with the people that actually made their appointments. And there's plenty of room in Gainesville at the location. So we can do that
If
as
we
well.
want to ask her to send the information to Kathy, so Kathy can get it, put it in the papers, release the next day register.
You good with that? Thank you.
Are we good with that? For that day?
Don't forget the Munster paper, especially since the Munster paper reporter is sitting there. We've been in here for quite a while.
Anything else?
That plan is we will pick up tires on the paper. Incorporate it into our hazardous waste collection.
Sounds good to me. I find it intriguing, they call them a hazardous waste, but they grind them up and use them on playgrounds?
Yeah, there's a conversation we can have about that.
Yeah, we talked about that.
I don't know that I'd want them on my playgrounds, but they're desperately looking for ways to reuse the materials because they are not good in the environment.
I'd make the motion on item 15 that we do a tire collection in conjunction with the hazardous waste effort on April 24th.
Okay, I have a motion to have a tire collection on April the 24th.
I'll second that.
I have a second from Commissioner Hollowell.
He made it.
You ought to be insulted.
No.
What did I ever do to you? Hey, wait a
That's
minute.
how slow my brain works, as I was still thinking about.
Well, I thought Shelley had moved over there in the corner. That's how bad I'm getting, son.
All right, let's try this again. We have a motion from Commissioner Hollowell to have a tire collection on April 24th, seconded by Commissioner Clement. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much.
I'm a little late in the game here, but Ricky, you take care of this with prisoners? Do we need to bring, what kind of resources do the commissioners need to plan on bringing to that?
I can and willing to, if the sheriff will allow them to come out of jail.
Will you check on that for us between now and then? And next court, we'll know what kind of resources we need to commit to it?
And I donate labor or skid steer, whatever.
Okay. Jason's got it handled.
Anything else? Agenda item 16, deliberate and consider possible approval of purchase and sales agreement for 2 Holt Cat motor graders at a cost of $224,000 each, Sourcewell contract 03119, and resolution with Government Capital for a 3-year finance agreement with payments beginning on February the 12th of 2024. Adam?
Well, I'm in need of 2 motor graders. The ones I've got are all worn pretty bad. I'm trying to purchase 2 of them to put in a fleet. I'm doing it as a buy, not a lease. Looking at my numbers. On this buying, my first time through them and everything, the warranty would be a 7-year warranty, 5,000 hour powertrain warranty on them. I'm thinking about trying to step these where I got, hopefully get reelected. That's my plan, but that's why I did the 3 years, to keep it inside of my election term. I know it's a lot of money. I'm gonna have to budget, my appropriate budget, which is gonna be tight to do it, but we're selling some stuff out of the yard now. That'll probably be, I think, next year before I can use that. Go with it, put it down on these, have some newer equipment.
Those funds have to wait till the next year, Kelly?
No.
I don't. So, the stuff I sell, I don't put down on this, so.
Just out of curiosity.
He needs to sell, but I'm trying to get it done maybe end of March, 1st of April.
But currently have budget money to cover this.
Well, I don't have to pay for 1 year with this contract.
So it will be a budget item in the coming fiscal year.
Yes.
3 fiscal years.
3 fiscal.
Just out of curiosity, I haven't priced a new one. In my brain, the Cat's the most expensive one. Did you price any of the other ones?
I did price John Deere, but he was late getting it to me. He was at 214 or 218,000. These have the new style remotes in them, like the skid steers.
Or the whole Cats have better resale value too.
So and that's what I got time too, is just looking at auctions and watching auctions. These stay, I mean, you don't get a ton of hours on, but I'm thinking 8 years. Probably have, say, 1,000 or 8,000 hours. I should recover hopefully around 150,000. I know it's I mean, I'm leasing also. I mean, we got a lease machine out there right now. But what I've bumped into is my hours got up to me, not $65 an hour to use it. I told them the parking. That's about $3,000 a week that it's gonna cost me. So, the lease that we had out there, I think was Shelley, was it 26,000 or something like that?
Yeah,
Something around that area.
but the payment's already been made,
The payment's been made, right?
but the contract ends in August.
August, but I'm out of my hours. It's at 3,000 hours.
Well, I'm assuming that someone did the calculation on what the cost per hour is for us buying versus leasing. I mean, we're factoring in the sellback possibility. Whoever did that calculation, just out of curiosity.
The number that I was told is that it gets over $30 an hour.
This is a little bit confusing. When they're leasing them by the year with a limited number of hours placed on them, there is no sellback in this lease scenario. That's what.
I fully understand that, but my question is, if we lease one for 3 years versus buying one for 3 years, what's the cost per hour factoring in the ones we buy? I'm assuming we're going to sell at some point in our district, right?
In other words, what does it cost per hour to buy one and own it? What does it cost for? That's what he's getting at.
Here's my thought process. Okay. And, I don't lease my current home.
Yeah.
I don't lease my current vehicles because I want equity. Okay? If I lease a motor grader at $28,000 a year for 6 years, that's $180,000. I could have bought it for 8-year life. Okay? I'm going to keep that motor grader. The motor graders we have in our fleet right now, some of them are 30 years old. So there's no real way to calculate, I don't think, the number you're looking for, because it might sit out there for 50 years and still continue to be used. So
Now, here's where he and I disagree. I lease one. Now, it's gone up, but this is a whole different machine. They won't lease a cheaper machine now, and the cost is going to be $28 an hour. It's 1,000 hours a year. I lease the one that we run not every day, but almost every day. And we stay within the 1,000 hours. If you pushed it harder, you could get over the 1,000, but we watch it pretty close. The one I have now goes back in March, and it'll have right at 3,000. It'll have 3,000 hours on it sometime in March. That ownership, I understand what Gary's saying. These new machines, the one we're getting is going to have the little pedal switches too. It won't be the old steering wheel and antlers anymore. They don't have a good enough resale value. The upkeep on these electronic things is going to be, I think, phenomenal as they get older. I've got 6 other older machines, but that is the reason I lease. I want one good one. They take care of all the service on it. Every 3 years, I get rid of it. I have to put tires back on it, but I don't have any repairs on it. Now, if I ever get through with FEMA, I may go back to buy another. I don't know if I'd ever buy a new one.
Well, I understand people leasing when they have tax write-offs too. Yeah, but we, the government, don't get a tax write-off, you lose that benefit. So,
It's cost per hour. $28 an hour, you can't get much for $28 an hour. And if I can lease a machine like that, all-wheel drive with all the bells and whistles on it, what it does, but you're getting to the top end at $28 an hour. Of course, this is a COVID year, and it's.
You guys have did this a lot longer than me, and it's, if the money's available, that's it. Just in my history previously, we always did cost of ownership on capital equipment. And we always did that rationalization between what's the cost of buying it and what's the cost of leasing it. And of course, when you do the cost of ownership, you have to figure in all of the services associated with it, how long the mean time between failures are. It gets pretty complicated, but experience counts for a lot too. And you've been doing this for a long time, so just what works best for your district.
The kind of down and dirty deal is, if you had 3 new machines, I put a good 1,000 hours a year on this rented machine. If I had 3 of them, I couldn't afford to let a $250,000 or $250,000 machine sit there. The other 6 that I have, when it rains, you have 3 days to blade road. That's why we have it. The other 6 combined probably make up the value of the brand new rented. In other words, you would have this new machine if I had 3 or 4 of them sitting there, not getting 50 hours a month. Because there are certain times of the year you don't get a blade roads, maybe once a month, maybe once 2, if I get a dry spell. Yeah.
I think try to keep at least one really good team, and we use every day, but you can't blame, like you said, every day. I mean, it's just not feasible. But, and I don't know really much. Yeah, I was, to get to that, you have to figure out how many hours you're going to use over its life, which might be 30 years.
Yeah.
And so we don't know.
Exactly.
But at least when we get ready to sell those, we're going to have some equity and we're going to get some return on the investment. Yeah.
Maybe.
Precinct 9 area, the same issue too. Luckily, I was heavily in one budget, I was able to buy a used one, and I was able to buy a used one by the first 60 days, I could buy one, the old budget, and next year I was able to, a little over a year, I was able to get the machines. But straight to the free budget, but that's a thing.
Some discussion. I've had this with two motivators stopping up to the job throughout the year. So.
I've been having, I mean, that's why I'm selling, we've got 11. Selling the older ones, keeping 2, my idea was keep 2 used ones, have 2 new ones. But we're running 1 in each group, in each spot, and 1 for backup. But we're gonna run more, I mean, as far as we can do, we're gonna push a little harder as far as, I know it gets dry, but they're laying rock and stuff. I mean, there's different ways. You know, I'm one of the guys.
He does this. He won't have a payment to this year. There won't anything come out of his line. We don't have to have any,
That's correct.
I don't know, it's a lot of money, but like I say, it's a lot of money in our expenses on our motivated rough and work. I got one right now, it's transmission slipping and it's like, so, I mean, it's tough, a lot of money, I agree.
Yeah, you don't put it on the spot, but
No thoughts.
no thoughts.
he's gonna be about, because he's leaving fines to the lease. His constituents. And he's doing it within his term. That's what we typically always have people do, not commit a commissioner into the next term.
Okay, do I have a motion? We have a motion by Commissioner Arndt and a second by Commissioner Snug. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Number 17, deliberate and consider possible approval of lease of a 2021 John Deere 672G motor grader at a cost of $28,294.97 annually for 3 years for Road and Bridge, Precinct 4. Leon?
This is not the final document. This is basically to get a PO to order. There's about a 2 months lag time, or lead time, I should say. Should have already had it ordered.
Because that's not a completed document yet, can you get it where it terms out at the end of your term?
No. You got to do it on a 3-year.
Well, you'll make a payment. When is it, when are you expecting?
March. Now, Gary, you know, you're going to try to hem me in on, I can't lease something.
You'll make a payment this year.
Yes.
And then he'd make a second payment in his last year, and there would be a third payment the final year, which puts you right back into the scenario where Adam is, where he has been committed by a predecessor to a lease agreement. Of course, unfortunately, his is out of ours. I don't make the predecessor bad guys. I'm consistent with my thought process is because I have been placed in a situation where I had to run off somebody else's purchase I've made payments on it for 3 years.
Well,
I know what it feels like.
Yeah, that's all fine and dandy, but on one hand, you want this all to happen in a 4-year term, and you get a new commissioner in there, and you're going to force him into spending hundreds of thousands of dollars over a 2 or 3 year period because he can't carry any of it into his next term. It affect him more than it will me.
Well,
Him being, and,
I'm sorry.
and it's a county asset. It's not like motor grader get 1,000 hours a year. It's not like we're buying a weird piece of machinery that grind up the road that didn't pan out.
Yeah, but if you take, what that does is it encumbers into the next term. And if, for instance, in this case, it's 1 year, if it were 2, that'd be $56,000. The next guy may have a philosophy that I would rather purchase than lease, and his hands are tied because it was committed by this court 3 years prior to.
Well, he's also committed by the roads that I'm fixing. You're going to paint yourself into a corner if you go down that road with everything we do. Yeah. Business with the kind of equipment, if you want to buy $250,000 machines and buy multiple ones, try to make that shoehorn perfectly within a 4-year period, you can't always get that done. You're not always going to have the right amount of funds to get it done. If one of your machines goes down, you got 1 year left in your term.
Well, should I back up and say, Adam, why don't we extend your debt out into 7 years and you reduce your payments and you would have more money in your road and bridge?
Did I say 7 years?
Just saying.
You're going to the extreme.
I'm just trying to be consistent.
Your consistency is in your head. Anyway.
Have you ever seen me vote to extend into somebody else's?
How many times have you seen me not make good business decisions?
You're one commissioner, but we shouldn't hold you to any different standard or anybody else to a standard. We all are. We should hold each other to the same standards.
Anyway,
I mean, yeah, my 2 cents worth here is we should try to get the best value for our money. I'd have to sleep on the lapping over different commissioners. But the long and the short of it is that if we can get a significant savings by going to a 7-year loan, but I don't see that that would be the case. In fact, it should be more if, in fact, the interest rate. Okay.
He didn't mean any of that. You did.
That he covered the next commissioner into $144,000. That's his equipment budget for the year. He's basically accelerating the equipment budget.
I'm going to make a motion, we approve mine so I can get a PO.
I have a motion from Commissioner Clement, step number 18. No, I'm sorry, number 17. And a second from Commissioner Snuggs. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1.
Just for the record. County better hope we all don't do everything the way Gary wants it done. Everybody went out
I
okay.
didn't say the one right or wrong, just do it.
That's why we have 5 months of this.
Exactly.
And
Throw it all together.
at least one of them, mine, is usually blank, so, you know.
All right. Agenda item 18, deliberate and consider possible actions regarding water heaters at the Justice Center.
All right, guys, we're all aware of the issues we have with water heaters. So I've gotten some quotes that I think you all have in your packets. I'll just kind of explain briefly what we have here. The first quote that I'd like for you to look at is that T&B Boiler Incorporated. 2 boiler companies, T&B Boiler and Stowe's Independent Services, that came and looked at our situation. They both came and looked. They both made their recommendations. And there's obviously a pretty good spread in the difference in the price. T&B recommended 2 boilers and 2 tanks, and then all of the piping and venting that go with that. And there's a different brand of a boiler that they're proposing, and
so forth. The only issue that both of them have is there right now are 4 water heaters with a vent for each water heater through the roof and a gas line for each one. The gas line is a 1-inch gas line coming to those heaters. You need an 1.5-inch gas line coming to the boiler. So T&B proposed tying 2 1-inch coming, there's a 4-inch main up there with 4 1-inch taps coming off of it. It's a iron pipe gas line. T&B is proposing bringing 2 1-inch lines together, tie them into an 1.5-inch pipe and feed their boiler. I asked them if that was proper, and they said they thought it was. And if it didn't work, then they would come back and actually tap the line with an 1.5-inch line off of that 4-inch line. I talked to Stowe's about that, and they said they would come, the first thing they will do is tap the line with an 1.5-inch tap coming off of that 4-inch line. They can do that hot. They can do a hot tap, they call it, which they don't turn the gas off to the building to do that. That's going with the boiler system. I've studied this up one side and down the other, and I think using a boiler system is by far the best answer for us. The other option is, and I got quotes on it, didn't even bring those with me. I thought I had them in my packet, but I don't, is to buy 4 water heaters. They're designed a little different than the ones we have that hopefully would work better in our water situation and that situation. The cost is still in the $40,000 range. And I'm not as confident in those water heaters as I am in this boiler system.
I think a lot.
Yes. And the boilers that Stowe's, my recommendation is that we use Stowe's and go with this boiler system. That's my recommendation to the court. The boiler that they're proposing is the exact same boiler we have, brand of boiler, but that's my recommendation. The other issue that's going to come up sooner or later is where's the money coming from to pay for it? I would propose that we take it out of my line item 350, and then when I get in trouble later on in the year, y'all can backfeed that.
Oh, I don't even understand what I'm saying. Keep my mouth shut.
Apartment complex with the boiler, and I like the one with hot water heater. Well, that's a problem.
I prefer there, just know, every once in a while I hear that we have issues with the courthouse because of that. That's not the extent of my, so is this brand reliable? You know better than I.
Yes, it is. It's the only issues that we've had with the boilers here is being an electronic thing. The pump motor went out one time, and then we had an issue with a transformer.
What kind of budget do they put on a new system on that?
That I don't know for sure. There's a year on labor from Stowe's, but the boiler itself, I don't know. Probably 5 years.
It's 5 years, is that, I think. Can we lease one?
I have not checked that out.
They don't get much return on your investment if it's driving the rest of that.
What is it you're wanting to do again?
Pay for this out of my line item 350.
I know, but what do you want to buy?
Boilers for the water, for the hot water at the jail.
Which one?
Stowe's services, $45,000.
You don't want to pay for it out of permanent improvement?
Yes, I would like to, but we need the boilers pretty quick, so I thought we're gonna have to wait 2 more weeks before we get a PO and all that.
No,
Okay.
if this is an emergency situation, we can go ahead.
Okay, that's preferred, yes.
So you're wanting to go with the stove?
Yes.
Need a motion for that, or are we ready for that, or? Anybody want to talk about it some more? Make a motion, we approve the stoves.
We have a motion from Commissioner Clement and a second from Commissioner Snuggs. All in favor signify by.
Can we have a little bit of discussion? How quick do you think you can get it in?
They stock the boilers, so I don't know exactly a date, but it's not a matter of having to order something, just a matter of them getting coordinated and getting up
Do
there.
you think you'll have it done in a month?
Yes.
Okay.
What kind of, is there gonna be downtime for the jail then? Is that gonna put us?
There'll be a little bit of downtime, maybe a day or something.
Bring in something.
Well, no, what they're gonna do is pull 2 heaters and set one boiler and then pull the other 2.
Okay.
There will be some of the current heaters working during the installation.
Yeah, we have 2 heaters, we've got 2 out of the 4 are still working at this point. And I would,
Sorry for the interruption.
No.
I would propose selling those heaters, putting those heaters on Renee Bate and selling them.
Are they gonna go up through the roof?
Yes.
Because they're not responsible for roof repair.
Well, they are responsible to put the vent through the roof,
Okay.
so.
That's interesting. They're responsible for putting it through, but they're not responsible to damage it.
You know,
We get clarification on that.
yes.
Make sure that if it's something they do, they should be held liable. Now, if the roof was bad to begin with, that's another subject.
Well, I think it could be, in the discussion, there are 4 holes there now, and they will only need 2. So maybe that's saying we're not going to cover the other 2 holes.
Okay.
That may be what,
Is the other contractor looking at that? Is that part of their?
just a matter of covering up a hole, 4-inch hole in a metal roof. It's not going to be $20,000 worth.
Yeah.
Anyway. We're back to vote.
Right, back to vote. Any further discussion?
Do not vote?
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item number 19, regarded. Deliberate and consider possible action regarding speed limit on certain county roads.
I'm gonna be real brief, just been here a long time already, we'll bring this back. Making a blanket speed limit across my precinct. Go back and forth between 35 and 40 miles an hour. All that, and see what you think about it, and I'll bring it back. I haven't been here for 2.5 hours already.
How much can we drop them
I understood that we could go to 35.
in one fell swoop?
That's what I've understood. You know, some roads are not posted, and some roads have been posted over the years. Speed limit signs are constantly stolen, so I like to be able to stock one speed limit. And then I feel, my precinct might be different, or might not be different than y'all, but I feel like it is. My traffic is just increasing, because, you know, all my residents live in my precinct. And I get a dozen phone calls a week. I'm not exaggerating.
Who lives in your precinct?
Y'all have the city of Gainesville. None of my residents live in the city of Gainesville.
No, I got you. I was going to say, did all 3 move over into? If that's the worst we do, we're doing good.
All of my residents are out in the county. And
He wouldn't either.
without exaggerating, I'm shielded, you know, a dozen calls every 10 days, speed limits, you know, and
I'm letting you with that.
Be social. I want to put several out myself. I'll give a list the next time because I've got some that.
I mean, it'd be a lot of work. I might do it in waves, you know, we'll do 10 roads every few weeks or something, but I thought about just making every road the same, or doing like a 35 on gravel with dust, and then 40 on paving or something, just make like a blanket, but I want to jump you on it. We don't have to make any decisions today.
What is the current speed limit? That's what.
If it's not posted.
If it's not posted. Yep, that's what I thought, yeah.
I've been past going 60 before.
I used to live on 158, what is that area, I think, right in front of the school there.
115?
Yeah, I've been going on 115 and 60. I think.
Yeah.
You know, and I tell my residents, you know, the county's large, we're not going to have much control out there, but it is a deterrent. And then if the troopers do run the roads and the deputies run the roads, and the speed limits aren't posted, they can't be put out. So be proactive and get on top of this.
No, I agree. I'm not too sure that shouldn't be countywide, but we can all chew on it for the next, we're going to take no action today.
Before we go countywide, we're probably going to choose something.
Yeah, we're going to have to.
Do we want to take a 10-minute break since we've been into this 2+ hours?
I don't know if I can be without y'all for 10 minutes. I've gotten so used to having you here. Yeah, I want to take.
Give it your best shot. Okay, go back into session, regular session. And we are on agenda item number 20. Deliberate and consider possible approval of resolution regarding redistricting in Texas. I'll talk to that real quick, and we won't take any action on that this particular meeting. However, just to brief you guys, is I have worked up a resolution to be sent to the state legislators requesting that we stay, and it would be our preference as a court to stay in a rural district with other rural communities. My concern about that is, and it's pretty obvious, if we get hooked up with Sherman or Denton, whoever the representative is in that district will be more concerned with the urban issues or the suburban issues than they will be the rural issues. And I don't think that we'll have the same zealous of representation as we would, even if our district continues like it is, going all the way to Amarillo. But all those small counties will have the same issues we have. Any thoughts?
I agree, totally.
Okay. That was just to let you guys know, we'll take no action on that.
When are you gonna, when do you want to do that? When do you want to send it down there? When do you want to?
That's a good question. I don't know really, to be honest with you, when's the right strategical time to send it. I know that the Senate and the House too has now started public hearings. So that's a good question. Open to suggestions.
I don't know if you ought to wait or not, for the simple fact you've already had folks saying that Cooke County needs to be in with some cities so we get better services. No, and there's things we don't have that if we were in with a city we would have. I don't think they really quite grasp. You would become almost non-existent. You got
Posted on the agenda, he can take the action.
if he wants to. I just,
Yeah, rather than wait till we come back 2 weeks down the road or two.
if you want to, I don't know. I'm not pushing you to do it. I'm just, since we're talking about it, when would be the appropriate time? Of course, we could pass it, and you can always take it to them.
Yeah, I like that idea.
I'll make the motion that we do a resolution stating that we want to stay districted with other rural counties.
Okay,
I'll second that.
We'll ratify the judges.
okay. Have a motion from Commissioner Snuggs to do the resolution regarding redistricting, seconded by Commissioner Clement. All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Now, you're going to write this out.
I will.
Show us how pretty it looks and everything.
You bet.
Use all the big words.
Yeah, the one I know. That's it. Man, it is. Okay, agenda item 21, deliberate and consider possible actions regarding courthouse annex remodel.
Guess we'll leave that on the agenda and skip it today.
Okay, no action.
Well, that's just my,
I agree.
Sounds good to me.
Item number 22, deliberate and consider possible actions regarding various grant funds. Have anybody that would like to speak about any of these?
anything from Shelley, or y'all just want to move along? What do you want to do?
Shelley, you got anything important we need to know?
About the loan grant. She stepped out in the loan grant.
No, I know. No new news.
No new news.
No new news except we had a phone meeting with Cohn and Resnick, and they now said, well, of course, if there's no crushed rock available, that's an excuse for not being able to rock your roads after they've spent 3 years telling us that.
Well, a year ago, they told us that wasn't a good excuse.
They've said it several times.
I have that in my notes.
That's the latest development we have.
And they've gotten all the documents that they asked for this time.
So we're moving right along.
Okay, no action on item number 22. Item number 23, deliberate and consider possible action on public health emergency declaration for COVID-19. Ray?
Yes, sir. Oof, all right. Got me now. I think I provided you some documentation. One is our case load really since March. And it just is a very good representation of what we've experienced, and that at this time at least, we do see a downward trend in cases and hospitalizations. But again, as we said last court, that's still not a reason to quit doing what we've done that got us here. And we're really kind of holding our breath too to see what are the results in about 2 weeks after a Super Bowl weekend. The hospital daily seven-day averages, that's for the region, trauma service area region E, which correlates to that 15% that the state or the governor has talked about in the past. I believe we're still at about 18%, but it's considerably down from the 27% we were a month ago or 6 weeks ago. As of Friday, we had 230 active cases, 3,400 total cases, and 56 fatalities, and the normal breakdown we put up every week on that. As far as vaccine goes, we did get an allocation of 600, actually 800 for this week, but 100 of that went to DSHS and 100 of it went to Tom Thumb Pharmacy. But the 600, to the Cooke County Medical Clinic that is under North Texas Medical Center, and Munster Hospital received a total of 600 doses that we'll be providing at our clinic on Thursday from noon to 5. And those email notifications go out today. We're also supporting that with a phone call to everybody, and currently working through the process of getting 600 confirmed appointments for that day, talking to the person. And we're already finding that several have already had their first dose somewhere else that didn't get taken off the list. So it's just a constant process over the next 2 days to get that winnowed down to an appropriate confirmed number. We've had about 2,500 total first doses in the county since they've been allocating it. We continue to advocate for more. We've proven that we can give it fast. We have the support, great support throughout the county with both hospitals, volunteer organizations, local doctors' offices and clinics. So we're ready to give it. They can't supply us fast enough.
So have you been jerking anybody's chain?
In fact, I think that actually we ended up getting 800, part of that because we were jerking chains. I have spoken twice with Dr. Raw, who is the director of human resources,
Vaccination immunization.
Yes, that's it.
And DSHS.
And I know that Drew has reached out to a couple of people. We're still campaigning to become a hub. So I'm certainly open to suggestions on what we could do further.
Go ahead.
Well, percentage hospitalization, we're trying to move back down to the 15% so we can open back up. Do you know what that number is?
I'm sorry, what?
Did he give it to us?
What we're currently at is approximately 18%. It may have been high 17s over the weekend, but it's somewhere in that neighborhood.
When people sign up for the vaccine, do they get a confirmation email or anything that they're signed up?
They get a confirmation code that acknowledges their sign-up was completed successfully. It's a 5-digit code. It's either numbers or letters or a combination of both. And they're provided that. And then unfortunately, they have to wait until we get the vaccine to get to them on the list. At that point, we do email them and then follow that up with a phone call to talk to them.
Other than vaccines, is there anything you need from us?
No, sir. We've got a good staff over there. Again, the city, the county, both hospitals, the providers' offices, everybody's working hard together to get this out there. We've supported or done clinics now at the Civic Center. They've went very well. Good process, good throughput. And again, it's not a question of they're waiting on us. We're waiting on vaccine. The faster, the more we can get, the more we can give.
The deal you had down at the Civic Center was very well run, because I got a shot down. And I actually had a 3 o'clock appointment, and they let me go in 20 minutes early, and I mean, it was fast. Yeah, that went real well.
Good team effort. A lot of good folks helping us out. Everybody's on board. Thursday is going to be weather challenging. The forecast apparently is possibly just a little bit of winter weather overnight, but by noon it's supposed to be above freezing, and our ground temperatures aren't going to make that a significant event that we know of. It's kind of rainy and cold, so.
But I don't know, as long as you're knocking on all the doors, I don't think it's a coincidence where I see on social media where these counties are having meetings. Of course, they're bigger and more populous than we are. And they've been meeting with all their state reps and senators and wondering why they're not getting vaccine. And then all of a sudden, 10 days later, magically, they're giving 140,000 shots. And I thought that was really quite. So the squeaky wheel, I think, gets the grease a little quicker.
I think we've been squeaking.
Yeah, you must have been.
Question about, so we were pretty happy with it.
Yeah, that's good.
Anything else, Ray? Any other questions of Ray?
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Should be.
There wasn't a 23.
Okay, item number 24 will go into executive session at 12:49. All righty. Okay, coming out of the executive session, first item is number 25. Deliberate and consider possible action on real property, that being a repair to the sprinkler system on the Crest Building for $31,000 or $29,524, $20,000 of which we had a concession at the time of buying.
I'll make that motion, take the scenario.
I have a motion from Commissioner Snuggs and seconded by Commissioner Hallwell. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, the second one, also item C, concerns real property. We have been given an offer to purchase the furniture that is currently in the Crest Building for $8,000.
So move to purchase the furniture for $8,000.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Clement to purchase it for $8,000, seconded by Commissioner Arndt.
Just a second, Judge. Shelley, we need to state what line that comes out of or anything for furniture?
Or-
Take care of.
Non-department.
Okay, we need to put that into the record. Okay.
No, sorry, I don't think so.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item number 27, deliberate and consider possible actions on public health emergency declaration for COVID-19. Is that a repeat? Did we have that already? Okay. Okay, then we'll take no action on that. Item number 28, future agenda items. Anybody have anything at this time?
Speed limits.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Do we want to put the entirety on there?
Yeah.
Oh, that's, I don't know, that's
It's
good.
done, isn't it?
Is it done?
It's done. Another, way I understand it, TCOG's going to notify Kathy, Kathy's going to get it in the paper.
That's right.
And we're finished.
Yep. All right, item number 29, adjourn.
I'll second.
I have a motion to adjourn from, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Sorry it took so long, guys.